and the mind to be the self, considers some people to be his kinsmen and others to be outsiders. Because of this misconception, he suffers. Indeed, the accumulation of such concocted material ideas is the cause of suffering and so-called happiness in the material world. The conditioned soul, thus situated, must take birth in different species and work in various types of consciousness, thus creating new bodies. This continued material life is called samsara. Birth, death, lamentation, foolishness, and anxiety are due to such material conditions. Thus, we sometimes come to a proper understanding and sometimes fall again into a wrong conception of life. Okay, let me see how to go to the next one here. I just trying to, oh, here we go. Okay. Well, let me see. I'll read the next text, text 27. In this regard, an example is given from an old history. This involves a discourse between Yamaraj and the friends of a dead person. Please hear it attentively. Purport. The words itihasam puratamam mean an old history. The Puranas are not chronologically recorded, but the incidents mentioned in the Puranas are actual histories of bygone ages. Srimad Bhagavatam is the Mahapurana and the essence of all Puranas. The Mayavad scholars do not accept the Puranas, but Srila Madhvacharya and all other authorities accept them as the authoritative histories of the world. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gananjana Sharakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Darati Shwa Padantikam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Shari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So, this is the age-old problem, first problem, which later on in this chapter, Prahlad Maharaj, he also addresses this. Some people are kingsmen, so others are outsiders. Some are friends, some are enemies. Just like when Hiranyakashipu challenged Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj said, your problem is you see everything in terms of friends and enemies. You go out conquering all these people, all these kingdoms. But the real enemies are the senses and the mind. And of course, lust, anger, greed, these things, kama, krodha, lobha, these are very dangerous things. And this whole idea is all based on the body. And of course, Hiranyakashipu, he's thinking that he's preaching against the body, but he's so attached to his body. Just like when Muchukunda was praying to Krishna, when after being awakened, he said, I'm thinking this body is a special body. I've got a king's body. Of course, Srila Prabhupada gave his classic example. Someone may be in a big car, a big Rolls Royce, and someone may be in a Volkswagen. But the people are equal, but they think because I have a big car or a small car that I'm better. But, and Muchukunda said, I have this king's body, and I go out and conquer in 10 directions, but then I come home and I fall at the feet of my queen. So what is so special? Someone needs to silence their microphone, please.
I fixed it.
Okay. So, and then he said, but when this body dies, just like any other body, the worms, it will be converted into worms or ashes. And these worms, they're not special royal worms. They're ordinary worms that will eat anybody. So, again, as I mentioned yesterday, Hiranyakashipu is he's speaking very intelligently. Even the Christians say the devil can quote scripture. So he's giving this wonderful information. Yesterday I was mentioning that although philosophers may be very, very expert, very adept at explaining philosophy and analyzing all the problems of the world, they rarely have any solution. They're simply analyzing problems. Just like someone may turn on the news, BBC or CNN or whatever, and you get a barrage of problems, difficulties, but no solution. Political parties, just like just a few days ago, there was the election for the president of the United States. Everybody's criticizing and so many problems and promising they'll fix it. But the real problems, as Prabhupada said again and again, birth, death, old age, and disease. So, and then we see the real problem. The real problem in the next verse, the one that had the purport. The problem is that they don't understand where the solutions are. And Srila Prabhupada in his purport, he speaks about itihasam puratamam, that the Puranas, and especially the Mahapurana, Srimad Bhagavatam, is giving the real solution. And the solution is there in the very beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that Satyam Param Dhimahi. We must meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what state of mind do we need to do that meditation? Paramo nimatsaranam satam. We should try to elevate ourselves to the platform of Paramahansa, otherwise to the platform of pure consciousness, pure devotional service. And also, in Nirmatsaranam, we should be free from envy. Just like in the beginning of the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that the solution, pravadantyanasuyave, that Arjuna, you have to be free from envy. And because you're free from envy, I can reveal idam tatte guyatamam. I can reveal this guyatamam, this most secret, this most confidential, transcendental knowledge to you. But as Srila Prabhupada says here in the purport, that Mayavad Mayavad sannyasis or Mayavad scholars, they don't accept these Puranas. They don't accept, even there's one group, Arya Samaj in India, they don't accept anything except the 4 Vedas. But they have no ability to put the 4 Vedas into practice. Just like when I was in South India, I wanted to go into certain temples, especially Guruvayur temple, and I had to go to the Arya Samaj and get certified that I was a Hindu so that I could go into the temple. And all they did was ask me, do you believe in the Vedas? Yes, I believe in the Vedas. Okay. Gave me a stamp. I gave them 200 rupees and went into the temple. So this is this misunderstanding, and especially the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is the natural and complete commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra was so important that, you know, the Smarta Brahmins and different groups were challenging the Gaudiya Sampradaya coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that you don't have a commentary on Vedanta, and therefore you're not authorized. An authorized Sampradaya must have a commentary on Vedanta. And so they elected Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, by that time in his life, he was absorbed in what we see in his commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam, especially the 10th canto, and different writings. And many of his writings were lost. He had a whole volume of writings which were hidden, and they were never found again. So he wasn't in the mood to do a commentary on Vedanta. So he called Baladev Vidyabhushan and he said, you do this. And Baladev, he had the right mood to actually understand Vedanta through Srimad Bhagavatam. And what did he do? He went to the Govinda deity. First he got authorization from the Vaishnavas, then he went to the deity, and Govinda revealed to him. Just like Krishna revealed the Krishna book to Srila Prabhupada. And we see Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, all of our great acharyas, they all of a sudden, especially Vishwanath, will come up with a conversation. Krishna said this, Radha said this gopi said this person said this. Otherwise, not only because they are Paramahansas and because they are free from envy, they can actually perceive in the spiritual world. But these Mayavadis, Mayavad scholars, they can never accept. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he went to Varanasi, he was there and he was instructing Sanatana Goswami. And after he was there for some time. And after he finished instructing him, Tapana Mishra and Chandrasekhar, they came to him and they said, they were Brahmins. They were actually very learned. But they said these Mayavad sannyasis, they were very, very criticizing Lord Chaitanya, that he's performing Sankirtan, dancing and chanting, and this is not what sannyasis are supposed to do. That sannyasis are supposed to study Vedanta. And they couldn't, on the one hand, they couldn't process, they couldn't hear this blasphemy. On the other hand, even though they were scholarly, these Mayavad sannyasis were very scholarly. Just like one time, Srila Prabhupada sent out, devotees were very new. Srila Prabhupada had recently brought some devotees to India, and they were in Bombay. So 2 devotees, they went out to preach, and they came back and told Srila Prabhupada that, Srila Prabhupada, we met this Mayavad scholar, Mayavad sannyasi and scholar, and we engaged in a debate, but he knew so many verses, he knew so many, we couldn't defeat him. And Prabhupada said, then why have I given you Brahman? Prabhupada said, if you know 30 verses, 30 key verses from Bhagavad Gita, you can defeat anyone. And Prabhupada said, this is what it means to be Brahman, not some thread, no, not some bell ringing. Sometimes we think that second initiation is just to go and worship the deity. Certainly it's required. And even Jiva Goswami and Sanatana Goswami comment. There's one section in Madhya Lila, chapter 15 of Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Satyaraj Khan is asking Lord Chaitanya, how does someone like me, like him, fathom, make spiritual advancement when household life is very entangling? And Lord Chaitanya says that one should serve the Vaishnavas and one should chant constantly the holy name. And then Satyaraj Khan asks, who is a Vaishnava? And Lord Chaitanya, he gives 3 answers in 3 consecutive years. The first year he says, someone who chants the holy name once is a Vaishnava, meaning a Kanishtadikari, who somehow or another is able to chant offenselessly and develop full faith in the Lord, but doesn't have faith in others. And then the next year, the same question was asked. And Lord Chaitanya said, one who's always chanting the holy name, the Madhyamadikari. And then the next year, he was asked again, and he said, the Vaishnava is someone upon whom you see you want to chant the holy name, the Uttamadikari. So, but in that conversation, the first one, Lord Chaitanya said, not only to chant the holy name purely, nothing is necessary, not even initiation, not even purascharya, not even the preparatory activities for initiation. Otherwise, if one is able to chant purely, one doesn't even need to be initiated. But of course, Srila Prabhupada comments later in 2 places that I know of that even though that may be true, Sanatana Goswami and Jiva Goswami, other acharyas have established that most people are conditioned, practically speaking. Otherwise, there's only 2 reasons to come to the material world. One is your condition. You don't have faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the other is that you're a pure devotee who's coming to save those people. And even the pure devotee who comes, even though he may not need to chant the holy name, he'll do it because to give the example. It's like Srila Prabhupada did so many things for us to give the example, which he didn't need to do. He didn't need to do for his own benefit. Even just coming to the West, Prabhupada didn't need to do it. Everyone was advising him against it. He could have stayed in Vrindavan and lived very comfortably in Radha Damodar temple, seeing the deities, being absorbed in Krishna Lila, and left this world without any difficulty. So a devotee is always obedient and gives the example. Even Krishna puts his pure devotees into all kinds of situations to be able to give an example. Example in Kali Yuga, everyone wants to see. People are just hearing is not enough for most people. They have to see, they have to experience. And so example is the precept, giving some instruction, and then giving the example how that instruction is real is so important in Kali Yuga. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was in Varanasi, and so Chandrasekhar and Tapana Mishra came and said, if you don't do something about this, we'll have to leave our bodies. We can't tolerate this. So Srila Prabhupada comments that they were actually Kanishta Adhikaris. Imagine if Tapana Mishra and Chandrasekhar, Tapana Mishra met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in what is now Bangladesh when he went on his tour, and he was told to go back, study the scriptures in Varanasi, and Lord Chaitanya would meet him there later, and which he did after he took sannyas. So if he's a Kanishta Adhikari, what are we? And so just at that time, a Brahmin came to Lord Chaitanya and invited him. He said, all the sannyasis are coming to my house. But I know that you don't want to associate with them. You like to be alone, which is good for a sannyasi. One time Srila Prabhupada said, if a sannyasi does not love Krishna, he will feel very alone. So, because doesn't have family, doesn't have all these social arrangements that one may have in this material world. And so Lord Chaitanya thought about it and he accepted. Why did he accept? For two reasons. Because his devotees were in anxiety. Paritranaya sadhunam. The Lord comes to relieve his devotees of any kind of anxiety. And Srila Prabhupada explains in the teachings of Queen Kunti, to elevate a devotee to a higher platform of devotional service. That's how he's delivering them. He's not delivering them because they're already devotees, but he's bringing them to a higher platform of devotional service. And the other reason was he wanted to give mercy to these sannyasis, because even though they were offensive and they were criticizing, they were saying the name of Krishna and they were saying the name of Lord Chaitanya. And because they were saying the holy name, even though they were in a critical mood, it had some effect on them. And therefore Lord Chaitanya wanted to give them special mercy. And of course he went there, he bathed his feet, he offered obeisances, and then he sat down. Prakashananda Saraswati took him by the hand and brought him, and he said, why don't you join us? Why are you dancing with these fanatics, these low-class people in the streets? You should be studying Vedanta. And Lord Chaitanya said, my spiritual master told me that I was a fool. No. Murkatumi tomara nahika Vedanta dikar. He told me, you're a foolish person. You don't have the ability to understand Vedanta. So therefore, Krishnanam Japasada E Mantra Sar. You should just always chant this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then you'll be happy, you'll be free. And so Lord Chaitanya said, he was speaking to the sannyasis, and of course he got their attention by exhibiting his effulgence. Srila Prabhupada says that generally devotees don't like to show any type of special power, but sometimes it's necessary. Just like Madhvacharya would heal people. Not Madhva, but Ramanujacharya would heal people. And Madhvacharya had immense strength. He could pick up a boulder. So this was necessary because there were so many Shaivites and Mayavadis, and the Shaivites were very heavy at that time. They actually tried to kill Ramanujacharya. They had the idea of killing him or punishing him severely if he didn't become a devotee of Lord Shiva. And so you had to be careful. And so he showed them his effulgence too, and they were, Narayan. Oh, he's become Narayan. He made it. He did it in this lifetime. Normally it's the next life. They were kind of thinking, let's find out what his secret is. And how did he do it in this lifetime? And then, so he said, I'm not qualified. But once he told me, I started chanting the holy name of Krishna. And then I seem to have lost my whole composition my knowledge seemed to have gone away because I became like a madman. Otherwise, before I was Nimai Pandit, I was very serious and very, studious and defeating everyone philosophically. And all of a sudden now I'm laughing and crying and dancing. He said, my dear Guru, what kind of a mantra have you given me? It's made me insane. And so then Ishwara Puri said, he smiled and he said, it's very wonderful that this has happened. Normally this doesn't happen so quickly. And because what you've received is beyond the goal that everyone, of course, he was definitely indicating the Mayavad sannyasis when he spoke this. He said, this takes you beyond the four goals of life, even beyond moksha. No. Krishnanam haiti habi samsara mochana. It will take you beyond samsara. It will take you beyond all these things. And not only that, but it will give you Krishnara Charan. It will give you the lotus feet of Krishna. That's the most important thing. And then he said, and what's happening to you, that is because the body experiences the results of ecstatic symptoms. And then the body becomes a vehicle for transmitting pure devotion. And then he said, then he taught me a mantra. Harinam, Harinam, Harinam eva kevalam kalo nashteva 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 gati ranyata. He taught me this mantra, that this is the only thing. Otherwise, you don't need to study Vedanta, but you should hear Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the real Vedanta. And you should be very happy and just chant this holy name. And then Lord Chaitanya said, then he spoke one verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he told me that this verse is the essence of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. Evam pratasva priyanamakyutya. That when one makes the holy name of the Lord very dear to one's heart, the most important thing, and jatanurago duta chitta uchchai, or duta chitta, that one's heart becomes softened, and one begins to experience raga, or spontaneous attraction, and uchchai, asat yato roditi rauti hasati, or that one begins to smile, one feels spiritual agitation in the mind, one begins to laugh. Then unmadavan riyati lokabahya, and one begins to dance and chant in ecstasy, not caring for the opinions of others. He taught me this verse, he said. And then he told me, you should go and do this Harinam Sankirtan, chant, dance, and teach others about Krishna. That will be very beneficial for them. And so Lord Chaitanya said. And then at the very end of that speech, he said, because the happiness that all of you are experiencing, now he quoted from the Hari Bhakti Shuddhodaya, he said, this happiness, no, Twak Sakshat Karanha Ladha, there is an ocean of transcendental bliss, Vishuddhabdha Sitasya Me. And when one is situated in that pure devotion, then Sukha and he Goshpadhayante, then the happiness that Brahman, the happiness you get from Brahman or Brahmani, is just like the water in the footprint of a calf. And therefore, my dear Lord, this bliss that you have given me of Krishna consciousness is the most wonderful thing. That verse was also spoken by Sri Haridas Thakur when he was being challenged by a Mayavadi. Gopal Chakravarti, Sri Haridas Thakur, who is the Namacharya. He was, although he was born in a low family, because Lord Chaitanya, it's very interesting that Lord Chaitanya taught. He gave his greatest responsibilities to those who were not in a Brahminical position. Of course, Rupa and Sanatan, they were Brahmins, but they were rejected from the strict Smarta Brahman, from their company, from their association, because of their working for the Muslims, working for the Nawab. So although they were perfectly qualified, Lord Chaitanya took these Brahmin rejects, so to speak, and made them the teachers of all of his instructions and teachings. And then he made Haridas Thakur, who was born in a Muslim family, and of course Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Haridas Thakur they were living in Jagannath Puri. They never went into the Jagannath temple. I just had one experience. It was so wonderful. When we were on the first Padayatra, and we got to Jagannath Puri, then of course we couldn't go in. Many of us were Westerners. There were only like 3 or 4 Indians, and about 8 or 10 of us were Westerners, and then some devotees would come and go. We circumambulated the temple, and we came. It wasn't the Simha Dwar, it was another door, big door. So we stood outside the door. There were many people coming in and out. We were just chanting. And then this one panda came out shaking a stick at us and screaming at us in Oriya. And he came down. There was like a walkway from the door. And he came down the walkway and screaming at us like to get out of there. Of course, we weren't in the temple, but he was like threatening us with a stick. And we just kept chanting. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they have these like mini cows in Jagannath Puri. They're about as big as a Great Dane. And so this bull came out of nowhere and just bam, hit that panda, and he went flying about 4 or 5 feet. He grabbed his stick and ran back into the temple. So we felt very blissful that Lord Jagannath had accepted our Harinam and taught that panda that you shouldn't have this attitude. When Srila Prabhupada went to Jagannath Puri, he spoke with the council of the priests and pandas, and he told them, "Why, my devotee, you're letting anyone in? And just if they're born in India, they're meat eaters, they could be atheists. You let them in, and these devotees are giving up all sinful activities, following the principles of Vaishnava life, and you won't let them in." And many of them were favorable, but the main ones didn't want it. And Prabhupada said, Jagannath is not the property of this place. Jagannath is the Lord of the universe. And therefore, if you don't let our devotees in to see Jagannath, then Jagannath will go and see the devotees. And that's what happened. No. Of course, already Srila Prabhupada had started some some Rath-yatras, but he actually, after that, he emphasized how wonderful and how glorious and how big the Rath-yatras should be, to the proportion that Lord Jagannath deserves. So then anyway, and so Haridas Thakur, they never went into the Jagannath temple, these great devotees. And Ramananda Roy, who was a king, he was made the exposition of the most intimate understanding of Radha and Krishna. So this is Lord Chaitanya's gift. Someone has their microphone, please. So anyway, the point is that Lord Chaitanya, that Haridas Thakur came to speak to in the house of Raghunath Das Goswami, who was still not, at that time was not Raghunath Das Goswami, and he was preaching the glories of the holy name. And then this Gopal Chakravarti challenged him when he said that the holy name, that even giving liberation is not the purpose. The purpose is to develop love of God. And this Brahmin challenged him. What do you mean it takes thousands of lifetimes to come to the point of liberation? You're saying just by chance, I will cut off your nose for making such a false statement. And Haridas Thakur said, that's all right. If I can't prove it to you, I'll cut off my own nose. And he defeated him by speaking this verse that Brahmanyapi Jagat Guru, oh my Lord, the ocean of transcendental bliss is so great that all this Vedic understanding and even liberation is just like water in the footprint of a calf. And then, of course, Raghunath's father and uncle kicked him out, and he got leprosy. And he in 3 days his fingers fell off, his nose fell off, and he was defeated. So this is what I wanted to emphasize from this purport, that the real authorities, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all of our acharyas, they are presenting the Srimad Bhagavatam, and our Krishna consciousness movement is presenting the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and giving everyone the opportunity to participate in this Sankirtan movement so that we can all become transcendentally elevated to the platform of pure devotional service. So that is the opportunity that we all have. We were discussing yesterday how that if someone, even if you can't like go out for some reason, you're very busy, you're making money for your family or something, if you can't go out and do Sankirtan, and then meaning participate, go out and participate, go out and chant the holy name, teach people, then you can give a donation or you can help in some way but you must be connected to this Sankirtan movement. This was Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction, as I mentioned yesterday. We have to participate one way or another to bring the holy name to the world, just like we read yesterday, that the Krishna consciousness movement is meant to benefit the whole human society by giving them Krishna consciousness and convincing them that they should practice this Krishna consciousness 24 hours a day. So it's a big task. That is our duty. That's what we were meant to do. That's what Srila Prabhupada wanted us to do. And as his faithful servants, at least for the next 10,000 years, we should be promoting this Krishna consciousness everywhere in the world. And that way, our Krishna consciousness will grow. Other people will become Krishna conscious. And then Lord Chaitanya's mercy, Srila Prabhupada's mercy, the mercy of our parampara will inundate the world with the holy name of the Lord. So these are some thoughts I had on these particular verses today. I'll stop here. Is there any question?
I have a quick comment question. I mean, a lot of times we assume or we believe that it's in line with our philosophy. We have to be humble to receive Krishna consciousness, but in order to give it, we kind of overlook that mark. We have to be very tolerant in so many different situations. And of course, Sankirtan book distribution helps bring this out even more in order to give it to others. Last night I was up till 11 o'clock just hearing somebody out. It's not the easiest thing in the world. And you've given us that example. Srila Prabhupada's given us that example. So I was wondering, like, if you could elaborate more on humility when preaching, being put in so many different, awkward, difficult situations for the betterment of other people, and how to balance that, how to know when we're not just losing out on energy to somebody, or and understanding if we're actually giving something, that point of reciprocation. How can we judge that point of reciprocation with an individual so we don't just get sucked dry and left with nothing in the end, you know?
Well, there's no
Humility when giving.
That's how you know. If you feel more enlivened, if you don't become disturbed, as Krishna says again and again in Bhagavad Gita, that we should not be disturbed by happiness or distress. No, it's easy. It's easy not to be. It seems to be easy not to be disturbed by happiness, material happiness, but actually, material happiness can be the most disturbing thing, because by being disturbed or by being affected by material happiness, we become disturbed by material distress. So that is the way you know. If after preaching or after making an effort to spread Krishna consciousness, one should feel more enlivened. If there's actual humility and there's actual tolerance, these two things go together. You can't really have humility if you're not tolerant. You can't have compassion. As Lord Kumpila says, titikshasva karunika, that you can't really have compassion unless you have tolerance. And so if those things are present, then you will never feel drained. You won't become angry. The only reason you'll become angry if someone blasphemes Krishna or if someone blasphemes a Vaishnava. Then you become angry. You're not angry because of your false ego. But if your false ego becomes affected, if your pride, if your absorption in your own intelligence, or your mental condition or your physical condition becomes disturbed in the context of your service, then it means that your humility is not so great. Humility doesn't mean non-performance. Humility, just like Arjuna, he was very humble, and he humbly killed hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Very humbly killed them, because his humility was to do what Krishna wanted to do. And that is humility. Do what Krishna wants to do, not what I want to do. And the tolerance is that I will accept whatever condition is necessary to perform that activity for Krishna. And so, and if we have that consciousness, then we will always feel enlivened. We will never feel drained, or, I had to argue with someone. Lord Chaitanya would not argue. Even in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada comments, the devotee doesn't like to argue. But if a devotee is placed before a Mayavadi and they have to debate, the devotee will debate and defeat, not out of pride and thinking I know better, but thinking it is my duty. It's my duty to stop this illusion, just like Lord Chaitanya did. He took the trouble of going with these Mayavad sannyasis with the possibility that they would have just laughed at him or rejected him. But he tried to give them his mercy, and he did. He achieved it. He was successful because of his humility. He came in, he offered obeisances, he sat in a lower place. And that humility conquered that. Otherwise, good qualities and good example will conquer the minds of any genuine person. Of course, if someone's just an avowed atheist or a great fool, then when you try to speak to them, as Chanakya Pandit said, you try to give a fool good advice, and then he becomes angry. So when you see that, then we just say, well, chant Hare Krishna, give them some prasadam. Even Prabhupada would do that sometimes. When he saw someone was not understanding or was not able to really capture what Srila Prabhupada was preaching, he would tell the devotees that give them some prasadam. So that should be our attitude, the attitude of compassion, the attitude of understanding, as Krishna says in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it's all being done by the modes of material nature. When a devotee sees the modes of material nature acting, and as Jesus Christ said, hate the sin, not the sinner. So when we don't judge people, we understand they're under the modes of nature and we try to help them, but we're not against them. Then we can exhibit real humility.
We have one question from Mother Nakunja.
Okay, we'll just take one question, and then we have to go because we have some discussion and okay. One more question.
Should be unmuted. Can you unmute yourself?
Okay, yeah, I can. Okay, please accept my humble obeisance, my Guru Maharaj. I'll go to Srila Prabhupada. I can say my question in Spanish because for me it's more comfortable.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Guru Maharaj, usted habló acerca de la etapa de Madhyatma Adhikari, ¿no? Y cómo, bueno, he escuchado que la etapa de Kanista Adhikari es una etapa muy larga. Entonces, también se dice que la etapa de Madhyatma Adhikari es una etapa en donde se tiene fe firme, incluso ya hay ciertos vestigios de devoción pura. Entonces, eso quiere decir que, bueno, también se dice que si uno no está en la etapa de Madhyatma Adhikari, uno no puede predicar porque no tiene una fe firme, uno pues comete muchas ofensas y prácticamente no puede avanzar. Entonces, ¿cómo nosotros en la etapa de Kanista Adhikari, porque bueno, definitivamente hasta que si no hay vestigios de devoción pura, eso quiere decir que todavía estamos en la etapa de Kanista Adhikari. ¿Cómo nosotros en la etapa de Kanista Adhikari podemos hacer algún avance si finalmente no tenemos una real devoción y una real fe firme?
So basically the question is, for those that don't speak Spanish, that if one is a Kanishta Adhikari, how can one preach? How can one advance a devotional service? Because the Kanishta Adhikari commits offenses against the holy name. Otherwise, they have so many qualities that can, they can't appreciate the Vaishnavas. They can't appreciate people in general. So how can they actually function? And so how can they make advancement? So the point is that Prabhupada said Kanishta Adhikari is the offensive stage of chanting the holy name. Therefore, one should quickly get off the Kanishta platform. So that means we follow the Madhyama Adhikari, we follow the Uttama Adhikari. And as long as we're working under their instructions and direction, then we'll make spiritual advancement. But when we allow our Kanishta qualities to overcome our, overwhelm us, and we don't follow and we don't obey Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas and Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, then our Kanishta reality becomes prominent and we won't make advancement. So otherwise, the way to get out of the Kanishta platform is to follow those who are not Kanishtas, and then we will make advancement. So anyway, I'll have to stop here for today. And I want to thank you all very much for your kind attention and for your constant dedication to your Krishna consciousness. And please, especially those who are in the audience here, please come and attend these classes and these opportunities to hear about Krishna, and then we will all be able to advance and come to the platform of pure devotional service. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi.
One thing is on Saturday we have a Sankirtan seminar, a book distribution seminar with Navina Nirada Prabhu. It's going to be at the same time, which is 8 a.m. our time, Texas time, on Saturday with the same Zoom link. If anybody's interested, it'll be a 1-hour book distribution seminar. And if you'd like to join us sometime, we do a 30-minute reading and sharing every day at 8 a.m. with Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the same link. If you'd like to tune in, we do 20 minutes reading, and then we do about 10 to 15 minutes of reflection. So that's daily. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.